Hi, I'm Heather Alamond. I'm the branch manager at First Federal Bank.
Hi, I'm Daksa Patel. I'm a branch supervisor at First Federal Bank on Jackson Street.
Hi, I'm Emily Nolan. I'm a teller at Jackson Street.
I'm doing my report on conducting business in Russia. If you are planning on doing business in another country, it is very important to do your research. So for my presentation, I will be covering the topics of social customs, women in the workforce, education, economics, and business etiquette in Russia. Social customs, meeting and greeting. Unlike the United States, Russians do not smile at strangers, but if you're greeting them, you are expected to smile and handshake. Some rules for shaking hands in Russia are to remove your gloves and do not shake over a threshold. They believe that this will lead to an argument. Body language is important to Russians. Public contact, such as hugs, backslapping, and kisses on the cheek, are common among friends, acquaintances, and members of the same sex. Russians also tend to be closer to one another when speaking. If you do not stand close enough, they will consider this rude. Eye contact can be tricky in Russia. Here, we make eye contact with anybody, but in Russia, you do not make contact with strangers unless you plan on greeting them. In a business setting, though, it's very important to always make eye contact. In a business setting, keep your hands out of your pockets, don't slouch, and put on your best face. Putting on your best face means for any business or important meeting, you should try to look perfect. Dress in clean, neat clothes because appearance is very important to Russians. Dining, entertainment, and gifts. If you are conducting business in Russia, there will be dining and entertainment. It is very polite to bring a gift for the host, or even a small gift for a child of the home is always appropriate. When dining, you are expected to leave food on your plate because this is an honor to the host. And after a meal, Russians love to give toasts. Women in the workforce. Women make up 46.9% of the employed population in Russia. The decision to join the workforce was actually brought by economic pressure. There are many laws for women in the workforce, including having equal rights, but there are also legal regulations for women working at night, and women who are pregnant are not allowed to work at night at all. Also, pregnant women cannot work overtime, but also pregnant women cannot be dismissed. Education is very important to Russians. For their basic education, it is in 3 stages: their primary general education, their basic general education, and last, their secondary general education. They start their first education at age 6 and in their secondary general education by age 17. At the end, they take a state-run final exit exam, and if they pass, they get a certificate of completing their general education. And this also means if they pass, they may or may not get to go to college or their vocational education. Employment. The Russian Labor Code forms the basis of labor regulations in Russia, establishing procedures for hiring and dismissal of employees, as well as regulations concerning work time, vacations, business trips, and salary payments. By Russian law, there is a contract of employment that is between the employer and the employee. All contracts must be in writing and must have a validity period, or it is deemed to be executed for an infinite time period. Contracts can only be terminated if the agreed term expires, notice by the employee, termination by mutual agreement, or by forces beyond the employer control, such as a court order. Working hours are strict in Russia. The normal work week may not exceed 40 hours, and this is usually broken into 8-hour workdays with no less than a 30-minute lunch break and no more than a 2-hour lunch break. Overtime is permitted, but only with the worker's written consent. Business etiquette. Russians are traditionally very punctual, but in recent years, senior directors of a new business like to keep visitors waiting to demonstrate their power. If it's a meeting of equals, you are always expected to be very punctual. Being punctual in Russia is a very good first impression. There is no time frame for meetings. The meeting will begin on time but will not end until all the points are covered. In Russia, before the meeting, you're supposed to reconfirm by phone a few days prior. During the meeting, the most senior person will dictate the topics and the length of the discussions. In Russia, they have an extremely hierarchical structure in private and public organizations. The boss is a distant figure and will be surrounded by visible demonstrations of his or her position. Wealth and status are demonstrated openly and emphasize the difference in authority. Junior members are expected to respond immediately to any request by their boss. Structure and formality of meetings is very important. Meetings are always formal, and the structure is dependent on the senior person present. To have any influence on a meeting, it's suggested to know who will be attending so you can send somebody with equal status. In order to be successful in the business world in Russia, it is important to follow etiquettes, customs, and laws. Research should always be done beforehand to avoid insulting your future colleagues. Thank you.